Welcome to Freedom Cast, a podcast dedicated to interviewing star icons and entrepreneurs who have encouraged others to become more healthy and active. My name is Ashton, and it's my pleasure to host you as we take another trip through the fitness industry. It's entertaining and informative, and I hope it makes fitness more exciting and special to you in your own fitness journey. Freedom Cast is supported by Freedom Fitness Equipment in Charlotte, North Carolina. Freedom Fitness Equipment serves the health and fitness community nationwide, from free weights and strength equipment for home gyms and studios to cardio and conditioning equipment for commercial spaces. Check them out at freedomfitnessequipment.com. Let's get rolling with today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Rhianon Lovelace. She is pound for pound the world's strongest woman and broken multiple records and is just an awesome personality. So I wanted to have her on to talk about that journey and also just introduce her to those of you who do not know her. So welcome, Rhianon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. These are always fun to do. It always helps.
Absolutely. So for those people who don't know, give us a little bit of your background and what your lifting numbers are and why you're pound for pound world's strongest woman.
So I'm a pro strongwoman, the world's strongest woman in 2018. Broken the world records in deadlift, silver dollar, axle press, Atlas stone, and I won the 2020 pound for pound strongest in the world.
Nice. And what is your background? Like, how did you even get into strongman?
It was a bit of a bizarre one, to be honest. I don't think I was supposed to be here. I was a big geek growing up. Like, I was stereotypical, like captain of the maths club, captain of the chess club. My future was physics for as long as I can remember, like ever since I was little, anything to do with astrophysics specifically. So I went to uni. Like that was kind of the dream was NASA. Like that was like ever since I was teeny tiny. And I got quite heavily bullied, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the way through, to a point that I was getting like physically assaulted. I ended up in hospital, and that's when my dad actually put his foot down and said he was going to teach me how to fight. He was like, "You are going to learn to stand your." I was always small, I was always tiny, and I was never the confrontational. Like I would back off. And so he took me to judo, we did kickboxing, and I finally settled in MMA. Unfortunately, moving into the competing with that, I ended up having a really bad back injury. I broke some of my vertebrae and really messed up like my lower back. Had to have loads of surgeries. So I just started in the gym I was in a wheelchair the first time I went into the gym, just to get stronger. And, as a teenage girl, not having the able-bodied functions, all my friends are going out partying and my mum's helping me go to the toilet. I just wanted that. It wasn't classy, it wasn't glamorous. I just wanted that function back. And I just fell in love with lifting a little bit more weights than I did last week. Eventually, that turned into a barbell, and I actually stumbled across, I used to actually train with the old men at about 6 a.m. Because they weren't mean to me and they were just very accepting. And one of them just mentioned, like you could compete at this. Like this is a sport. I had no idea. And that's how I got into powerlifting. Realized we were pretty talented. Won the world championships, I think end of my first year, under my second, cow. Pretty early on. And then we were the first to do a triple bodyweight squat, a couple of European titles, things like that. And then I met my strongman partner, and he kind of pulled me across to the greatest sport on earth.
That's amazing. Do you find, so I've noticed there's a few trends when people talk about their background, particularly like in powerlifting and strongman, and it usually starts with, I got bullied and then I did X. Have you noticed that there's any sort of like similarities?
I work with so many amazing athletes around the world, and some of the strongest women, we all have our backstories. We all have our adversity that we've been through that has given us the fight to continue. By the time you get into strong woman, you've already done kind of like the social not norm. You've already crossed that line by entering Strongwoman, and it's usually a kind of backbone that's formed from adversity that we've gone through, you know, that kind of pressure makes diamonds kind of thing. Yeah. And it's why I think the sport is so inspirational. You know, I've heard everything from like major cases of abuse, drug addiction, issues with violence, all kinds of issues that Strongman has effectively saved these people, offered them a home, offered them a community. You know, I've worked with multiple naughty boys, shall we say, young lads that are going down the wrong path. You know, they made a few early decisions, not great ones, got themselves in the wrong crap, and they are going down not a great path. And Strongman offers them a family. It offers them a home, a place of physical exertion, and a place of pride that it does save so many people. It's incredible.
That's awesome. So why did you decide to go into Strongman as opposed to sticking with powerlifting?
It was a dare. It was a dare. My partner, to be fair to him, he has since day one, you know, before we even looked at competing, he was like, you could be world strongest woman. He was like, you need to do strong woman. And I was very kind of, no, I've got my sport, you've got your sport. And I said, I was like, I will do a strong woman comp the day you do a powerlifting one. And he actually had a torn pec at the time, but he stuck to his word and he got on the platform with a pretty much full rupture of the pec. Did a full comp just to kind of push me into my first comp. I was, you know, I had like a 400-pound deadlift at the time. It was a sumo deadlift, but I was, you know, pretty strong. So I told him to like find me a decent comp. You know, I'd rather throw in the deep end, and he put me in a worlds qualifier that I ended up winning.
No way.
Yeah, worlds was my second lightweight show, and I promptly walked over to the powerlifting arena and retired on the spot, like 20 minutes after the end of the strong woman. Like I'm very intuitive. I think when I feel something's right, I am definitely a risk taker, and I just walked across and retired on the spot and was like, "This is what I do now. I'm a strong woman now."
That's insane. And you were doing really well in powerlifting. Like, did you break any records prior to going into strong woman?
Yeah, I think I broke the world record in all 3 lifts in the total. I won the pro show a couple of months before I retired. And I was like 20. Might be like 19, 20.
Are you serious?
So yeah, I think it was a little bit of a shock. But when you feel that something's right, I just wanted to give strong women my everything. I just wanted to learn, just the community as well. You know, I met my now best friend. She was my first friend at my first strong woman comp. She showed me around, and now we travel the world together and compete together, and it's incredible.
That's amazing. When did you first realize that you were good at really any of this? I mean, I assume you started like getting into really high numbers at some point, but really early on. But you know, was it somebody actually telling you, "Oh yeah, you could probably go for this," or did you start to get a sense like I could actually be absolutely incredible based on the weights you were lifting?
It was always so. Like I said, sporting accomplishments wise, I was bottom of the barrel. You know, I would avoid sports day. I would skive PE and read books in the library. Any kind of, you know, physical sport in front of people was not my thing. Yep. You know, mental arithmetic, you put me in front of thousands of people. And so when I went to my first comp, powerlifting comp, everybody in my life pretty much laughed at the idea that I was going to compete in strength. But I was 5'4". I was about 100 pounds. Wow. I was teeny tiny. So yeah, everybody but my mum laughed. My mum has been my biggest supporter since. And I think it was just a series of winning things that I thought I had absolutely no right to win. My first comp, I won the overall, which I didn't understand. You know, I didn't understand what was happening. I was just being handed this big trophy. And then when we got to the world championships, there was all this talk about this Russian athlete. You know, she's unbeatable. And I was honored that I was in the same class as her, and I was going to, you know, be on the platform with her and have my name next to hers. And I beat her pretty comfortably.
Wow.
And again, you know, in my head, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I'm just following everybody else. And it was really like, damn. And then again, you know, people just put up ranks and I was at the top of the ranking systems. And it did take a few years to kind of get my head around it. But even now, you know, I still do things that I don't think I have a shot at doing. And then it pays off. And we're still building that self-belief, definitely. Like it's a long journey.
Yeah. Do you think, just generally speaking, that I know it's much more of a man's sport than it is a woman's sport, but and men, I'm sure men struggle with the confidence issues. But do you find that women, particularly getting into these kind of strength sports, do struggle with confidence and believing that they can actually lift heavy and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, massively. You know, I think why I think weightlifting for women is so important is everything in society is basically reinforcing how fragile we are, how physically weak we are, you know, just a chivalry of, I'll get that for you, darling. You know, we don't even open car doors. Like we can open a car door, you know, lifting things in the workplace. It's incredibly restricted for women. The men will, you know, it's constantly reaffirmed that we are not capable, you know, that we need somebody that is capable to do these things for us. And I think that really does spill over into the sport. But eventually the sport combats that, which I think is the important thing. But yeah, I think a lot of newbies struggle because, you know, you just got to watch the numbers on TV, you know, the crazy numbers that the pros can put up. And, you know, I do think there's potentially a sense of maybe slight emasculation for the new men, feeling proud about themselves and then, you know, seeing something like the pro women. You know, there is that joke about, you know, the girl's stronger than you, and it's actually not an insult when you're talking about the pro women. You know, they're putting up crazy numbers. I've got some girls that would run plenty of rings around our lads, and I do think it's tough. Like I said, it is the social not norm. You know, on social media, we have an amazing community, but we still have kind of the muggle world, shall we say?
Yeah,
that sees women lifting weights. You know, sees the strain that we go through, and you know we're not at our prettiest when we're locking out a deadlift, and I think that's important to kind of embrace. But we do get a lot of flack for it, and it is very tough, but ultimately it does double down on the sense of community, which is lovely.
Yeah, I would love to see that more normalized. As a guy myself, me and my wife both lift, and I think it's much more attractive having a strong, you know, especially a strong female partner and a strong woman. Like it's just, I don't know, the whole like skinny type and all that stuff that's kind of lauded in our culture is not. It's just not attractive to me. I don't know why.
For me personally, I just like feeling capable. I like feeling independent, able to take care of myself. You know, a lot of the DIY and like I've got a big carpentry project going on at the minute. You know, I'll do myself, and I think that's, you know, we're not in the 1800s anymore. Women are fully capable of doing pretty much anything, and Strong Woman really gives out that vibe. It's brilliant.
Nice carpentry. So, is that just something you're doing on the side for now? What are you working on?
Yeah, just a hobby. I'm not like very good at it.
Yeah.
Like I just make things for our comps. Like I've finished just making our new podiums.
Wow.
I'm just making some advert boards now, just to try and like step it up our comps a little bit more and offer a bit better.
Very cool. Very cool. How did you end up winning World's Strongest Woman? Tell me that story.
So this was nuts. So yeah, my first comp was a Worlds qualifier. I won that and got into Worlds. I remember sitting there with my partner, and I said, "Well, what do we do now?" He was like, "You're going to Worlds." He was like, I still didn't understand how the sport worked, so I rocked up to Worlds. I went with my partner was competing, and we had a friend that was competing, and they didn't have great times. They were very disappointed with their placings. And we were driving home on the second day, obviously the finals on day 3. And they're all talking about what they're going to do tomorrow. And I'm sat in the back and I'm like, well, I'm going back. Like, I'm in the finals. And they were gobsmacked and they were just like, how? And I was like, I don't know how the sport works. I don't know how, but I saw my name on the list and I'm going to come back. So my first finals, I absolutely got my ass handed to me. I came last in both events, but it was such an amazing experience. I finished 9th that year, and then we got back, and I was like, this is what I want. Like, we have 12 months. I don't care about anything else. This is what I want. And that was the year that I just won everything. I'll never be able to repeat that year.
Wow.
We won the qualifier, England's, Brits, Europe's. I set the deadlift world record. We won Arnold Africa. And then I went on to win. I think I won half the events. It was a big lead. And the moment putting the stone on, knowing that I've done it, was just crazy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, was like, is there a point in the competition where you knew you'd won, or you just had such a large margin where it was just like, well, if I finish this event, I'll be fine?
It was bizarre. So like, you've got 2 events on day one. I think I was about 4th after the first event, and then I won the second event. So I was winning after day one, and it just felt surreal. Like, I told Luke, I was like, it just doesn't feel. This is where I hold it for a minute, and then, I'm going to get beat tomorrow, but it's okay. I'm doing what I can. And then I finished day 2 in first place, and we had quite a big margin. And that night, Jesus Christ, I don't think I slept at all. My partner, bless him, I was just pacing. He was doing everything he could. I think I got some sleep at about 6 a.m. I couldn't eat. I was just visibly shaking. The fear of losing it at this point, having held it the whole comp, I knew I just had to give absolutely everything. I went into it, and I just had this mindset of like, you are calling your mum and you are telling her that you gave everything. Whatever happened, you gave it all. And I think I won the first event. And then by the last event, having my partner tell me, I think it was the first stone I needed to load. And he was like, it's yours. It was like, you get that one stone on there and you can't be beat.
Wow.
And I wanted to finish the run just because it was Worlds. Like, I want to finish the run.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it was just, they're doing interviews with you, and they're pulling you left, right, and center. And I just wanted to call my mum. I think I actually lied. I said I needed to pee just so I could go and call my mum. It was crazy. It didn't sink in for months. It was nuts.
Wow. And I saw you recently broke a lightweight axle bar deadlift world record at 515 pounds. So how the heck many world records have you broken, Rhianon?
I think it's 11 now.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's 11.
That's incredible.
The heavyweight ones, we've only done the silver dollar. The deadlift did the middleweight as well. Yeah, the axle was my partner stayed in the UK, and I was under strict instructions to just win the event and move on. It was ridiculously hot. I'd had to do a bit of a water cut. We were very worried in terms of like cramping, and he was like, just do enough to win and do not go for that world record.
Oops.
Yeah, when they asked me, I couldn't not. I did say, I was like, I'm going to be in trouble with Luke, and I was like, but Luke's not here. I was like, getting on the bar. Group chats going, Luke lost his absolute mind. But no, it was a very, I kept it within the comfortable range. I didn't take any risks with it.
Yeah.
I did plan to chuck another kind of 60 pounds on that recently, but we got pneumonia, so that put an end to that one.
Oh no, that'll always put a wrench in it.
That was good.
Oh my gosh. Let's see here. So, you went to strongman from powerlifting. Oh, why not? So, I mean, you're at what, 68 kilos? So that's what, 150 pounds US.
I'm about 135. That's
135. Okay, gotcha. So, from a physique standpoint, why strongman? Like, why not? Again, going back to powerlifting or even doing bodybuilding is why strongman long term?
One of the things that I didn't like about powerlifting was the lack of direct competition.
Okay.
I do think there are too many weight classes, and I think there's so many feds and so many championships that I like the direct fight. That's what we got in MMA. That's what we got in judo.
Yeah.
And it kind of lacked that a little bit. And seeing that in strongwoman, OSG, the best 30 women in the world, head to head, one winner, that's it. It's incredible. And I get excited by that pressure. And also, I prefer the diversity of the sport. You know, no 2 weeks are the same. No two comps are the same. If you go into a powerlifting comp and somebody squats 50 kilos more than you, it's not a lot you can do. Like, there's not, other than hope they tear a hamstring and bomb. Like, that's your only chance of beating them. Whereas in strongwoman, you know, I've seen it. One of my young boys, he recently beat a deadlifter that deadlifts him by about 300 pounds because he was slightly more skilled, he was faster, he was fitter. And just because somebody has got bigger numbers than you, the sport is still open. So much can happen, you know, with people falling, people tripping, people making mistakes. I just find the competition much more engaging. No slight on any powerlifters, sorry. I actually recently went back. So I did the Axel World Record in Texas, and then I came back and jumped into a powerlifting comp the week after.
No way.
When I was younger, I'd always looked at the idea of the biggest deadlift in Britain, and I've always kind of, you know, like worshipped those girls. And I just felt it was time to go back and take the throne that I've always wanted. So I jumped into that, and I broke that, and that was actually the day after. Back-to-back records, not a plan. So
holy
not fun.
Cow.
Yeah, it was the Monday I was in hospital after that deadlift. But I actually went back because I wanted to see, you know, now I've matured and I changed as a person, I've changed as an athlete. Are my roots back with powerlifting? No, it's not. It's strong. I had a fun day. Don't get me wrong. It was a good time. But I came away from it thinking, I'm glad I've done this, but my heart is definitely strongwoman, 100%.
Yeah. Is that sport more accessible to, would you say, to, I know it's becoming more popular, but is the sport more accessible to the everyday gym goer than, say, powerlifting or even bodybuilding?
I'd probably say bodybuilding is probably the most accessible, purely because there's just more, especially in the UK. Every gym has access to bodybuilding kit. Probably same with powerlifting as well. You know, effectively all you need is a bench and a squat rack and some deadlift plates. But strongwoman is growing like absolute crazy here, phenomenally crazy. My gym membership is about 70% women. Wow. In fact, most of the guys in my gym actually date the girls. So there's not actually many kind of men in Kaos kind of on their own. We're very, very kind of female strong.
Wow.
And we're seeing an awful lot of that. We're seeing a lot more of people investing in their own kit since COVID and having their own little strongman set up. And then kind of, you know, having friends round and having a bit of like a strongman Saturday. So it's definitely getting more accessible, and it's really good to watch.
Yeah, because my impression, especially over here in the States, particularly during COVID, was there were a lot of people getting into strongman because basically all you need is a rock. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that, but you know,
you could do a lot with a rock. You give me one single rock and I can do a whole training plan. Yep.
Yeah. So I like that about the sport. Is just, it seems, I mean, you can obviously I've talked to a couple of other, you know, strongmen who the kit for the competition is obviously quite large. I mean, the equipment that you need, but if you're just trying to get into it for the first time, I think it's fairly simple or straightforward, unless you want to go complicated with all of the logs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I had, especially through COVID, I had a lot of athletes obviously stuck at home with minimal kit. And we were managing to train like full strongman. There were ways and means, you know, you think outside the box and there's ways to do it. Whereas my powerlifters struggled.
Yeah.
Obviously it's, you know, just kind of like a single plane of movement. I find strongman more true to honest strength. And I think that's what I'm drawn to. Like, I would love like a max strict press event. I love things like yoke press, block press, things that really just, they rely on just brute strength. Whereas there's a lot more technique that involves in the powerlifting. In strongman, the strongest will always become apparent. You know, you give them a certain piece of kit or you give them something slightly awkward and that true strength will come through. I think that's why I'm just specifically more drawn to it.
Yep. What sets apart strongwoman in the UK versus the US?
Oh, deadlifts? Can I say that? Sorry, everyone. No, that's not true. There's some crap in American deadlifts. So this is actually a topic that I'm quite interested in. The sport is different geographically.
Okay.
The areas of expertise vary. The order that newbies are taught events varies. For instance, log press. Log press is the most common press in the UK. Like by, I'd say 80% of the time, it's a log. So when we get a newbie, we teach them log press straight away. And dumbbell's actually very, very rare. So dumbbell is the last thing that they will learn. After Viking press, all that, they will learn dumbbell press. Whereas America seems to be the complete opposite. American girls are phenomenal on dumbbell. Yeah, we had that dumbbell for reps at Clash, and I sat there with Kate, and I was like, "This is the first overhead me and you are not going to win." I was like, "This is going to be an American girl." I think it was actually a Canadian girl, actually, but the Americans did amazing at it. But similarly, when there was a log at Worlds, it was the 3 British girls that came in top 3, and I think that's pretty predictable. It's just about how we learn it. So yeah, you definitely the American women, the axle presses. You don't want to be messing with the women axle presses and the dumbbell presses as well. But then I'd say like Britain has the log. I'd say we have the deadlifts because of obviously me and Lucy, but there's a lot of there's some really, really cracking American deadlifters. So I'd say about 50-50 on that one.
Sure. I also was listening to a podcast recently where a guy that was involved in the sport was saying that just from a popularity standpoint too, it's much more prolific in the UK than the US. You guys have arenas for this, and we really don't, at least not yet.
I think the Giants Live sold out Albert Hall, which is just like this huge, ancient, beautiful building. Like, it's almost like church-esque. Wow. That's probably the greatest venue Strongman's ever had. It was stunning. But yeah, we sell again. I think this comes a lot of it to geography more than passion of the sport. We can put a show anywhere in the UK, and everyone in the UK can drive there on the same day.
Right.
If we put one right in the south in London, you could get to it from Inverness and back up in the day.
Wow.
Which, you put something in the middle of the country where a lot of our comps are, and you're talking 4 hours at the most from any position.
Wow.
So that in itself makes it more attainable. So yeah, I'm not sure it's a case of like the passion is greater, or it's just slightly more convenient for everybody to attend shows.
Sure.
Yeah, one of the most annoying things that British promoters say is that how expensive it is for British athletes to get to America to compete. They make out that, it's not fair. The British athletes are basically charged so much more. I don't think they realize that it costs the same for many of Americans to get across in fact, sometimes more.
Yeah.
It's just an expensive travel around the world. But yeah, I don't think it comes down to the British fans being any more hardcore, if that makes sense.
Okay. No, that does make sense. Is strongman, in your opinion, like, and maybe this is more of an American thing, but is strongman the new CrossFit? Because I'm getting the sense that
there's a lot of money in that sport. The thing, you're not wrong. One of the things I think CrossFit nailed, and the reason it kind of exploded past strongman, is of its marketability of the athletes.
Yeah.
In terms of magazine covers, in terms of calendars, I have lost count of the amount of girls that have said, like, I want a body like Claire Toomey's. I want to look like Matt Fraser. They want to, it appeals to the masses, and it is on a vanity aspect. It is, but the majority of the population is very vain. Like we push aesthetics and we push, physical appearance an awful lot. And I think for so long, when people have thought of strongman, they've thought of men 7 foot, 500 pounds. And, that's not particularly relatable. That's not particularly attainable, especially for most. But, now we're seeing women that are 5 foot. I'm a size 8 in clothing. I'm very normal size. A lot of us have abs now. Same with the men. You watch the under 80s and the under 90s. They look 4 weeks out of a bodybuilding show. Those men are shredded. They are typically what the what the majority of the population would call hunks.
Yep.
Calendars, with the towels and the beaches and all that kind of stuff. And it's there'll be a lot of people that want to be able to do what these guys can do, but also look how these guys can look and see that they are only 5'8", 5'10", very normal structures. There's no reason why the average male can't kind of get to at least similar to that standard.
Yeah.
And same with the girls as well. Even when it was on TV, it was usually all the women over 6 foot. The big, very genetic women, which again for most girls is not attainable. I tried to grow and I have not. I think I've shrunk a little bit. So again, seeing more of the lightweights, seeing more of the middleweights, seeing girls that could go on and do bodybuilding, they could go on and do bikini. I think it's much more marketable now. Now we've got that real diversity in the weight categories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the aesthetic has definitely come a long way. I just remember even as of like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, the women's category was all, I mean, they were really big, and now it's that the aesthetic has really taken over. I think it's really increasing the popularity for the sport and just making it more approachable. So I'm super excited about that personally.
And it's definitely not, it's not about what we look like. It's about what we can do. But what it does is open more doors for companies.
Yeah.
More marketability, things like that. Any companies that were on the fence will be persuaded to help boost the sport.
Yeah.
And hopefully back us like they back CrossFit and hopefully get the. Am I right in thinking the women actually got paid more last year, I think, than the men? We've never seen that in our sport.
Holy cow. That's awesome.
I think it was slightly. I'm not sure if it's because she won more records or something like that. But I think I might be wrong in that. Or it was very, very close anyway.
Wow.
But, we'd love to see that kind of equality in our sport. And it's coming. It's definitely coming.
Nice. How do you, I see a lot of, particularly in the YouTube world, folks who are in different sports, even in this is, I think this is particularly true about powerlifting. I'm curious if it's the same way about strongwoman, but how do you avoid burning out in your enthusiasm for the sport?
This is massively so. I work full time in the sport. I obviously work as a professional athlete, but I have a clothing company. I have 2 gyms. I have an events company, and I have a graphic design company that produces graphics for strongman events and for athletes and strength companies. Just try and help them give a leg up in the sport and things like that. So pretty much anything I'm doing at any point of the day is related to the sport one way or another. And especially at the minute with so much tension and issues on the gender equality thing, that's something I'm very passionate about and something I'm usually kind of at the forefront of debates in. It can get really tough. And I've actually recently moved. I've just kind of got my dream house in the middle of the mountains.
Wow.
I'm just surrounded by sheep and greenery, and it's a very peaceful, very secluded place that has done wonders for my mental health. To be able to just go up the mountains with my dogs, just being able to step back and actually enjoy life. And we make the effort to enjoy the sport as well. We have 2 gyms, but we regularly go on day trips to other gyms to meet up with people and just have fun with our friends. I think that's the best way of putting it. Try and keep the fun in it. I've got my whole team going away this weekend. We're running a huge novice event. And, we're going all out for a meal. There'll be some axe throwing there and stuff like that. Try and enjoy the experience and enjoy the memories, because the injuries, the setbacks, it's tough. It gets, there's enough of the sport that gets really tough. So it's just taking the time to enjoy the positives.
Yeah. I think, forgive me if I'm wrong for this, but I think strongman is a little bit more, at least, when you're sitting off to the side and not competing during the main event, like there's a lot more fun involved. Like guys are, I know particularly with the guys, like they're just drinking when the guys are, going to town on, some sort of lift and just having a good time, much more than even powerlifting or bodybuilding, where everybody's just like crazy dialed in at every minute. There's no breaking in the action.
The way I get a lot of like beginners that come to my gym and, they ask me the difference in the events, and there is a big mindset difference in it, especially the way you compete. The way I kind of compare it is I always say Olympic lifting is like an exam. It's very quiet, very, very focused. You know, it's very high pressured, high stressful. It's about what you can do and what you can do only. And then powerlifting is a bit more like a classroom test. It's still very focused on you, but there's a lot more going on. You know, you'll have a couple of people being idiots in the back. It's just a little bit more relaxed. You know, you can go to pee if you want, stuff like that. And then strong women is like sports day. Tie your leg to your mate and run. Everybody's hitting the deck. Everybody's having a great time. You know, somebody's going to face plant the egg and get it all over themselves. And it's just a lot more relaxed. You know, when we go to OSG is like a pilgrimage for us every year. We have so many amazing friends all around the world. And when you first get to OSG, you completely forget that this is a world finals like this. And you're just like a bunch of toddlers that haven't seen each other, and you're running around seeing all these people, and it's such an incredible thing to do. Like it's phenomenal.
That's awesome. I am curious. You talk a lot about, women in the sport and guys making comments. How many guys have you beaten lifting either in the sport or just every day around town? Because you've got to have crushed some guys' hopes and dreams and numbers at some point.
What, like physically beating them up, or like
I don't know. From a lifting,
just like around town, like how many guys have you just beat? So I don't do a lot of men's. I do jump in men's competitions every now and then.
Yeah.
For me, I think as a pro woman, it's important to the men are allowed their sport and they're allowed their place, and I don't want to be coming in and effectively putting on a show of emasculating them, humiliating them, making them feel like in any way, shape, or form inadequate. Sure. So I jump in the comps that effectively we know the guys. They're absolutely fine with it. We make a lot of banter about it. But the last one, I think I came 4th out of about 25 after getting my ass kicked on the truck pull. It was funny. I won the overhead, which we were very shocked at. And then I got beat on the deadlifts. I was furious. But no, there was so much banter back and forth. You know, I think some guy beat me by like 0.1 of a second, and that's his claim to fame now. Like that's his. I lost the deadlifts. I think that might be the only deadlift event I've lost.
Wow.
But just having that banter back and forth, it's super fun, and it is always a bit weird when guys kind of. I don't really know what to say when guys tell me like I can lift more than them, or they're like, wow, you're stronger than me. I don't know what the right response is to that. Like you don't want to dismiss it, because then you make them feel weak. But then at the same, what am I supposed to do? Sit there and be like, I outlift loads of blokes. Don't worry about it. What's the correct thing to say to that?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do as far as a comeback.
I always feel really awkward and mean, and I'm like, well, yeah, I pull like 280. Like that's bigger than a lot of blokes. Yeah.
Yeah, I can kick your ass. Oh, that's funny. I wanted to get into your business a little bit, particularly with the gym and the clothing line, but we'll start with the clothing line because, by the way, so I've interviewed the guys from Hosswear, and yeah, how did you get connected with them? That's so cool.
So the Hoss guys, honestly, so I won't name any names, but I was with a clothing brand that I wasn't overly enamored with. Didn't think they were making the right choices by the athletes and things like that. Mm. And it was one of my athletes. She's actually got cancer, and she's a phenomenal woman. Yeah. And she was competing at World Strongest Summit while undergoing treatment for cancer, which is crazy.
My gosh. Woman. Holy crap!
And we'll be completely honest. She had no chance of winning. That. She knew that. We knew that. Like that was, and she just got sponsored by Hoss. And I loved the fact that, companies look to invest in athletes. They want to they want to get an athlete, cheap, young, new, stick with them, and then ride them up till they get to. That's what they do. It's an investment. Yep. And to see Hoss, they did not sponsor her because they were going to jump on her train and wanted a shortcut to the top. They sponsored her because it was a nice thing to do. Because they are good men, they stand by what's right, and I love that. And we had a big chat about it, and she was like, yeah, the lovely, she was like, they won't be able to, you know, they're just starting out, they're trying, this was a couple of years ago. Yep. They're trying really hard to kind of get up the ranks. And I just love that. Like, I wasn't fussed that, you know, they weren't Nike high and stuff like that. I love the fact that they were willing to back the people in the sport that really care, that are really passionate and really good people. And they were just trying to do the best for themselves and just try and push themselves. And, you know, they were ambitious, but they weren't willing to sell out their own principles. And I loved that. I absolutely adored that. And I thought if anybody deserves the benefit of our following and our lifts, it's definitely the Hoss guys. Like, they were great.
Nice. Yeah, they're I think Jake was saying that, you know, if they're able to get in front of somebody, they can usually win them over. Their personalities are just
they're brilliant. They're such good guys. Yeah. I don't have like a business partnership with them per se anymore, but I still have all their banners up in my gym because they're really just a company that I can just get behind personally.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go to your clothing brand. So Kaos Strength. When did you get into that, and why? And then when did the clothing line start?
Oh god, it eventually just started as a couple of, you know, gym merch. You know, just a gym t-shirt, gym hoodie. Went down the beanie line, and then people were asking for you know, personal kind of merch. So that's when we brought out the whole I think Queen of the Deadlift t-shirt ranges, and we've got the Lift Like Lovelace ones as well. But especially for the girls, there's so much of the fitness market out there that is not made for our body types.
Yeah.
Not at all. And it goes against our body types as well. You know, a lot of us are proud of our shoulders, proud of our traps, and we want to show that off. And yeah, the market was there for the men, but not for the women. So we tried to go down that road, especially things like sports bras, just offering kit that works, kit that's reliable. You know, everybody's had a little bit of a slip on comp day and it's not fun. And just stuff that girls can feel badass in. You know, it does the job, it holds them where they need to be held, and they just feel good as they walk out onto the stage. And then I guess that's evolved into, we brought the grip tops out because the UK industry was awful. I think there was access to one, which wasn't great. And then we could get the ones like the Strongman Corp and things like that, but they were mega expensive with the shipping. And I was like, look, the British the British athletes are being held back because we don't have access to a reasonably priced kit. So I looked into grip tops, brought one of those out. They went nuts. Like, it's still nuts rocking up to a comp and see like the majority Kaos tops. That's crazy. And then the stone sleeves recently came out because of effectively what happened in 2020, whichever one didn't get cancelled. World's Strongest Woman. My kit broke on the stones.
Oh,
my sleeves just disintegrated, and it cost me a second title. I had a big lead as well, and all I needed to do was not come at the bottom. And I was genuinely one of the most emotionally heartbreaking things I've ever been through. And I knew as soon as I walked away from that, I knew, like, mental health wise, I was like, the ghost of depression will eat you up if you don't turn this positive. If you don't find a way to take what's happened to you and help others, this is going to eat you. So I came home and I was like, right, I'm designing sleeves that do not do this.
Yeah.
If I can make no other person go through what I've just gone through, you know, and it cost thousands of pounds. Like, I lost loads of prize money as well. It was devastating. And if those sleeves can help someone else, then it will be absolutely worth it. So I think I was on the flight home, got to work on these sleeves, working out designs, and they are like anything else on the market. And fingers crossed, I've loved them. Like, I just won the Clash Stones with them. So I guess now the idea is to just think outside the box and bring athletes things that really help and that stop heartbreaking comp moments.
Yeah, absolutely. That was what I was going to ask. Is there anything that makes developing good strong woman or strongman clothing a real challenge?
Massively. The durability has to be there. You know, our sport is absolutely brutal. I regularly send like prototypes to my athletes, and I literally and I'm like, trash it, absolutely trash it. Do your worst. Let's see what these things can take. Be it a t-shirt, be it shorts. You know, the last thing you need, say, like when you're doing a sandbag loading, is your shorts to rip.
Yeah.
You know, or your t-shirt to rip when you need it to stick and things like that. And it has to hold up. But then also the sizes as well. Like you need to offer. We need to be inclusive. You need to offer from the very small to the very big. I think a lot of companies have now switched on to the very big, but it's difficult for me to find kit that fits.
Yeah,
that's a genuine. From belts, sleeves, sports bras, t-shirts, anything that's made for a strongman typically doesn't fit me. Yeah. So it's offering and just being, and we have kids involved and stuff like that in the sport as well. So we brought out the kids t-shirts because the more you can make people feel like they belong, the more they will feel like they belong.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's really cool. And then the gym too. So it's Kaos Gym, and tell us a little bit about that and why you started that. Is that kind of your training sanctuary right now?
Aye. So it's quite funny how this is. Obviously me and my partner had always daydreamed, you know, we'd love to own a gym. Like I was doing some coaching on the side a little bit, but I was actually area manager of a cocktail bar. I had a pretty cushy career.
Yeah.
It was nice and easy while I was training, and that's all I wanted. There were some issues going on at my work. I was flagging up a lot of like homophobic stuff. A lot of my staff are having issues with the managers, and it was just wrong. Oh. So I was effectively the whistleblower for a lot of stuff, and especially being bullied my whole life, I can't sit back and watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a big investigation, and they effectively decided to move me to a different store rather than deal with the homophobic member of staff. So I just quit on the spot. I'd had enough, handed in my lanyard, and all the gay guys that were having issues all walked with me. It was like a real moment of pride. It was, they lost about half a dozen members of staff in 2 seconds.
Holy cow.
It was a really empowering thing. And then it was on my way home that I just said, I'm going to open a gym. I'm going to do this. Like I worked out how much money I had, like savings and stuff like that. Worked out a timeline. And then 6 weeks after I quit my job, we opened the gym. I think my partner thought I was nuts. But we got to work. I got straight in the unit that I found. I painted all the logos myself. Like I wanted to really kind of do this myself. And build it we built all the platforms, we painted all the logos, and wow. It was a very proud moment when that opened.
Nice. How long has that been open now?
It's 5 years, it's 4.5 years. 5 years next March.
Okay. And what's the membership look like?
We keep it very small. We keep a nice group. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted that family feel of a gym.
Yeah.
So we keep it double digits. Effective. Everybody knows each other. You know, when people go to compete, either everybody goes with them, or there's a real kind of sense of group training. You know, everybody's doing their own thing, but we all know each. You know, they all get Easter eggs and things like that. And it's I think a lot of gyms are missing that feel. You know,
yeah.
I don't know what it's like in America, but you walk into commercial gyms in the UK, you won't speak to anybody. You might speak to the person on the door of the desk, and you won't talk to anybody. And that can be both helpful and very unhelpful. But yeah, Kaos, we like to provide that support. We have an awful lot of top lifters at Kaos. It's phenomenally strong, but we also have a lot of beginners. And we've had a lot of those top lifters since they were beginners. So they're very, very welcoming, very supportive. You know, they remember what it's like. And it doesn't matter whether there's 40 kilos or 400 on the bar, the whole gym will get involved when there's a PB. If somebody shouts PB, like everybody, and it's such a wonderful feeling. It's really, really nice.
Oh man. So is the gym more focused on competition and getting folks trained up for to compete? Or is it kind of a mix?
No, it's specifically competitive strength athletes. I don't think we have a member that either doesn't compete or doesn't aspire to compete.
Nice.
But we do a lot of like cross coaching as well. Cross training coaching for other sports. Mm-hmm. So we've got like some professional hurdlers, rugby players, swimmers, cyclists. So yeah, a lot of their kind of strength. I'm their strength coach, and then they will go off and do incredible things in their sport with their newfound power.
Very nice. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is, do you train other strong women? It sounds like you do quite a bit.
Yeah, there's not many sports that don't that don't have an advantage for being strong.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like darts, but even then, I'd argue that if you've got a stronger throwing arm, you're going to be better. So yeah, there really aren't many sports at all. I'm actually going to start. I've actually got a new idea of launching something soon. I was on the junior British dressage team growing up.
Yeah.
I used to break them, back them, all that kind of stuff. And I'm actually still going to look into coaching for equestrian. So effectively taking the riders, getting them strong so they can go and ride better. Because they fully remember, I was very, very small. We actually found recently, my partner was doing some digging. He found an article from when I was about 13, competing in dressage, and I had a big stallion. I used to compete with the adults. And we found the first quote of one of the refs that said that it basically blew her mind how strong I was for my size. And I was like, I think that's the first reference ever that I'm actually pretty strong. I think she was the first person to see it. So yeah, I'm hoping to, because there really aren't many areas of life that being stronger can help. I'm a big believer of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh shoot. Had a question about, I'll remember it here in a second. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so you're training others. You've got the gym. You've got the clothing line. Where can people find you if they want to look at the clothing line that you have available, or follow you either on social or on the web?
Rhianon Lovelace, Kaos Strength on Instagram, and then obviously our website is just www.kaosstrength.co.uk, and that's got obviously all the shop on there, but it's got a lot of information about our services and upcoming news and things with like events that we're running and things like that. The event business is turned into a bloody full-time job as well. That's gone a bit crazy.
Oh yeah, I bet. My goodness.
I mean, we just started that. We just started running like local shows, mainly for the gym, mainly to just inspire our members. No real ambition with it, just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And people just absolutely flocked to it. It's been insane.
Yeah.
We ran an all-woman. I've always wanted to run an all-women's comp. 5-6 years ago, when I was looking at my fellow would book into comps, and I'd be like, "Oh, can I do it?" And he's like, "There's no women's class." Like, oh, okay. And I actually said to that point, I was like, "If we ever get the chance, I was like, I'm going to run an all-woman show. The men aren't invited." And I remember saying that. So now I was like, I want to run an all-women's, ran by women, ref by women, spotted by 4 women. And the first year we ran that, it was only supposed to be a local show. I think we had about 7 countries involved.
Holy cow.
In fact, we've just released this year's one, and I think it sold out in about 4 days. It just goes crazy. We've got prize money for the pro women. And then we took on the Welsh national show because, again, I felt like the Welsh were very overlooked, very underrepresented, very dismissed. So we went and picked them up, and they've been phenomenal. We just had the national TV coverage for them a few weeks ago, and then now we have the lightweight nationals for the men. It's just going absolutely crazy. Like we run a significant amount of national shows in the UK now, and it's my partners. I told him, I was like, "You're gonna have to step this up." People want what you can do. He's competed for about 15 years around the globe. He's worked with a lot of the big organizations in the sport, and being the athlete as well. He knows what they want. He knows what they want. He knows how to produce an exciting comp, and it's going absolutely brilliantly. It's like specifically the under 80s. I think 3 years ago, there wasn't really a thing in the UK. And last year they had like £2,500 of prize money and about 50 boys, and it was incredible. It was lightning. And this year it's been the same as well. It's been phenomenal. It's such a huge improvement in such a short space of time. It's crazy to see.
Wow. And I bet they love you guys are both very successful in the sport, so I'm sure they love having somebody who actually knows what they're doing to support them.
They trust his judgment. They trust they trust the comp's going to be fair. It's going to be well run. They trust his judgment in terms of events and reffing and things like that. And that's the thing. You've just got to offer a fair, even field with good opportunities. Treat them with respect. And none of the sliding your mate free reps and stuff. Just very kind of. It's actually sad because I don't think it's anything over and above. He gets great trophies, he gets great prizes, he gets cash prizes, but I don't think that's exceptional. That should just be the standard norm.
Yeah.
He's good because he cares. He's good because he has the knowledge, he's competent, and he's passionate. Yeah. And that should be the norm. Yeah. So that's the good thing is that they have it now and they're absolutely loving it. Like there's calls for him to take more and more comps all the time. I think we need some more staff.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man, that's excellent. I love it. I love it. I love it. If there was a woman wanting to get into strong woman, are there any tips you can get starting out? Like, should they join a specifically strongman or a strong woman oriented gym right out of the gate, or just start small, do a few competitions here and there, and then go from there?
I would definitely try and find yourself a gym with the community. At the end of the day, you're going to hit a lot of stumbling blocks. You're going to hit a lot of hurdles, especially in your first few months. And having the right people around you that they can help, but also, laugh with you when you fall. That's a big, big thing. Judgment-free zone is one of the most important things. Jesus, you make loads of mistakes as a pro, never mind when you're learning. And you need that environment where, they laugh with you, they help you pick you up, and then they get going again. Because some of my best girls walked in my gym. I've got one called Wednesday. She's been doing it 7 months now. She's actually looking at turning pro in her first season. Wow. She walked in our gym and went, not got a clue what this is, but I want to do it. And I love that. Me and her just gelled from the word go. I was like, I've always wanted to do this. I have no idea. Help me. And just a brilliant attitude. She's pulling close to 400 pounds. And just that bravery of just jumping in. Hi, I'm new. Can I play? Would you help me? And I think, a lot of strong men, strong women, we look very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
We're very moody a lot of the time because we're very small. But we're very friendly. We're very open people. And like you mentioned before, a lot of us have been bullied before in the past, which makes us very almost sensitively aware of other people. You see a lot of strong men going out of their way to include and encourage. And that's because they know what it feels like to be excluded and discouraged. So you don't have to throw to that.
Yeah. I've found both in powerlifting but particularly in strongman, strongwoman, that sport seems to have some of the best personalities of pretty much anything I've come across. I mean, even from just, you see a lot more of the personal lives of folks like Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall and Hathor and those guys, but like all folks like yourself who are just super genuine and down to earth. And it's unlike, in my opinion, any other sport. So I just really enjoy the personalities there. So I think that's what's honestly is in y'all's favor as far as the popularity growing so much.
Yeah, massively. No, I absolutely agree. I think especially on the women's side of things, in an awful lot of sports, I've competed relatively high up in MMA, dressage, and there is an expectation of appearance, behavior. And there is, there's no way could I have had shaved heads and bright red hair as a dressage rider. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you're expected to fit this mold.
Yeah.
And one of the things that strong woman gives people is the freedom to break that mold. The freedom to, here's a weight, be who you are. And I think that's such a wonderful, wonderful thing. All body shapes, all body types. You see just things like hair. You see such a mass array, from bold women, dreadlocks, braids, bright red hair. You see all kind of, it's just phenomenal. And it's a lot of women just being who they are. You don't see it a lot in things like track and field, any Olympic sports.
Yeah.
I think Sha'Carri Richardson is probably the,
yes.
I'm not sure how I feel about what happened, but her image, that is a woman that is being herself. Like she styles herself and she doesn't care. You know, she's been slated for the long nails running and all that, and she wins. And I'm like, yeah, she is who she is, and I respect that. And I love that in strong women as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Rhianon, thank you so much for coming on. This was phenomenal. I really appreciate the time.
No problem. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. Please give Freedom Cast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean a lot to our business. Plus, it's fun to read y'all's reviews. See you next time.